Today we're going to discuss, and I appreciate members of the Tax Assessor Collector's Office being here to help us run through the truth in taxation and trying to work and be sure we all understand the same figures. Interesting enough, when we had the TAC Legislative Conference last week, and I don't know whether you all watched any of that, they had a whole session on SB2, and the most common thing they said was the comptroller has done a good job of trying to get together reforms. They didn't get all of them done. They realized the information is conflicting and misleading, and so one of the speakers referred for is confusion in taxation. And so you all may more than readily agree with that.
Yes.
I think, purpose, Michelle, what we kind of want to go through, because we had some different feelings about the numbers that were coming up, and
Lee, can you let Michelle see your proposed inside front page cover on your blue
This?
folder? On
Yeah.
your
blue
vote?
folder, in blue folder.
Let me help you.
That's it. I'll scribble on them.
Michelle.
Okay.
And one of the biggest things that and Commissioner Watson and I talked about it, and is Debbie Wheeler on? Debbie, are you on the phone with us?
I would take that as a no.
Maybe not yet. He just texted her to call in there.
One of the things I heard said years ago, when we had the big devaluation in the oil, and several county judges said, oh, they were oil dominated in their value. And they said the new effective rate is higher than the rollback rate. Okay, the rollback rate is based on the effective rate. But that's what we're seeing you indicate here, and I can't figure out how to get there. And I talked to Debbie, is that you?
Yes, it is.
All right, great, thanks for joining us. This is Woody Gosson.
And who is that, Judge?
Debbie Wheeler with, you all know Debbie, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. With Purdue, Brandon Taylor, thank you. I got to stop mid.
I gave her the wrong number.
Oh, Jeff's kind of crafty.
Yeah, 930 area code instead of 94.
Well,
Fat fingers.
that wasn't one of those solicitation numbers, was it? Okay. Debbie, what I was just bringing out to them and is what you've told Jeff, and my one-year Aggie mind is having a hard time figuring out how the no new revenue rate can be higher than the voter-approved tax rate.
And it does happen sometimes, and a little bit more often this year. A couple of things can make that be the case. One is that when we do the no new revenue rate, which on this, I don't know if everybody has the worksheet, but it's like the first 25 steps, 26 steps of the calculation.
Yes, ma'am.
And we do it once for the general fund and then the road and bridge, we add them together. That's looking at total taxes from last year based on the date that we do the calculation. So line number one, this is 2019 values as they exist at the time to show the calculation, not what they were when you adopted the tax rate last July. So things have changed. People filed for late homestead exemptions. They noticed that there's a problem with double value on their property, or the property got left off. So there's been changes to that appraisal roll since last year. So we're starting the calculation as the roll for 2019 exists today. And so we're again looking at total taxes. But when we look at the voter approval rate, which is the next set of numbers, we divide that down into the maintenance and operation rate and the debt rate.
Yes, ma'am.
And the maintenance operation rate is that 3.5% increase.
Oh.
And the debt rate may be going up and down depending on what the debt payments are going to be. So a taxing unit that retires a bunch of debt will see their voter approval rate be a lot less than their no new revenue rate, because their no new revenue rate was based on last year's taxes, and this year they're not going to levy as much for
Okay,
their.
let me ask you a question in there. I didn't think that the interest and sinking fund, the taxes that pay the debt were included. The only thing it was based on was the M&O.
That's only on the voter approval tax rate. On the no new revenue rate, it simply looks at last year's total taxes. And the calculations say, what would be a tax rate comparable to last year's tax rate on same properties paying taxes? So when we do the no new revenue rate, we're looking at total taxes, tax rate from last year, and we're making some adjustments both to the amount of taxes in the numerator, and in the denominator, we're taking out the new property. So it's not exactly all of the values, and it's not exactly last year's taxes. It's a specially calculated rate that's supposed to be comparable to the same properties paying taxes in both years. But the no new revenue rate doesn't break it down into M&O and debt.
Okay.
So when we get over to the voter approval rate, because the debt rate needs to go up and down, and whatever it needs to be to cover the debt payment, it's not restricted. M&O taxes get restricted in the voter approval rate.
Right.
And so that's why we have to do a second calculation for the voter approval rate, where we look at M&O taxes with a 3.5% increase, and then we look at whatever tax rate we need to pay for the debt. So a couple of changes occurred during Senate Bill 2, and also with the comptroller putting out the worksheets this year. The first thing is on the M&O rate and the voter approval rate, the comptroller decided to go back and look at the values that don't take out for exemptions in ag, which is not what we've done in the past. So that allows the M&O rate to be a little bit higher than it would have been if they had gone with the lower value. And that was just a decision. They thought the statute had been misinterpreted all these years. I don't think they really understood how the calculations work, but that's what they said put on the worksheet, and that's what everybody has to do. The other thing that happens is with the debt rate, Senate Bill 2 has reduced. You can't just use whatever collection rate you want to as your anticipated collection rate. You now have to use, you can't go lower than one of the previous 3 years of actual collection. And so for the county's case, instead of being able to use just 100% collection rate, it's using 100.59.
Yeah.
Which means that you've already saying $30,000 is already going to be collected more than you need. And so it's setting a little bit lower debt rate. And so that contributes to the voter approval rate. Those two things being a little bit lower than what it would be under the no new revenue rate.
What do they do?
So it's all,
I'm sorry, what do they do then to allow for the years you didn't, that money is not current tax money, that's previous tax money. So you're filling in for what you didn't get before, but they're counting that as current income?
correct. So on line 43 of the calculations, that new step on the anticipated collection rate, and it's starting new for this year.
Yeah.
And what the collector has to do is, what am I going to collect is everything. Current taxes, delinquent taxes, ag rollback taxes, anything I'm going to collect, deposit to the debt fund. And we used to say, well, if you could collect more than 100%, you put 100%.
That's it, 43.
The law didn't allow you to put anything greater than that. What the new law is that, oh, well, we're not going to do it that way anymore. You can't put anything lower than the previous 3 years of actual collection.
He doesn't have it.
And anytime you collect more than what you put down, that's going to be considered excess collection. So next year, if the county collects better than 100.59%, they can collect 102%. That additional amount over 100.59 is going to be subtracted out next
This
year,
is
further lower.
Wichita County, and this is Special Road and Bridge.
If this law stays the way it is, it will be harder to
Yep, yep, we got it right here.
Lee, excuse me, Fisher, could we stick one conversation?
Yeah, we're trying to follow her, okay?
Well,
If you could slow down just a little bit, so we can get on the same
Ask
page.
her what you want to know.
No, I'm just trying to follow her, and I can't find it on this paper. Okay, now that I've got the right paper, that helps a whole lot. All right, 100.59.
y'all have the calculation.
Yes, ma'am, we have the worksheet for here.
Okay. So the newest big stack is line number 43. I can find that one.
Got it,
Page 7.
got it.
Right. It's kind of far down, it's close to the end of the calculation. C there has enter A, B, C, D, and then you have E. A is what, A, so in the past, we've just put in anticipated collection rate, 100%, 95%. Whatever the collector's office is going to be collection for that, coming forth this coming year. But the legislature changed that, added B, C, and D there. And so you have to compare that to the previous 3 actual collections. And you can't use anything lower than the lowest rate of the actual collection. So that's why it's 100.59. So
Okay.
let's say that my largest taxpayer is going to file bankruptcy, and I know it because of COVID-19. And I think we're only going to collect 90% of the taxes this coming year. And I put 90% on line A. I can't use 90% because that's not the lowest. It's not below any of those other ones. So I have to use 100.59. If I only collect 90%, and they're saying, oh, you're bringing more than that, then I have to go into my reserves to make the rest of that debt payment. So this is probably not the best idea the legislature has had. Hopefully they will reconsider this, particularly, you know, it looked really good when everybody's collection rates have been pretty much consistent. As you can tell, they're for the county, it's been pretty consistent. But when you now have an issue of a year when people may not be able to pay their taxes, we may be setting the debt rate too low, and based on this anticipated collection rate, because people may not be able to pay like they have in the past. And you can't default on the debt payment, so you have to have the funds to make that $5,092,000 payment that you have. But that one step can drive your tax rate down. And that's why your voter approval rate, we've come to protection, 0.068874 debt rate on line 46. Might be a little, might be bringing that actual voter approval rate down slightly.
Because we've had another penny or two, was it, Willie? It was crowding 8 cents, 7 point something, wasn't it? The INS rate on line 47, or I'm sorry, on line 46, Debbie's speaking of. That's typically been a larger number than that for us.
This year it's 0.07 something.
10709.
0.0709,
92.
quarter of a penny off.
So your debt rate's lower, which means your voter approval tax rate's lower, because that debt rate's lower. And it's making it lower than the new revenue rate back over on line 26.
Okay, what makes it drop that 5, you know, that's dropping 5 points there, but that's not the difference in the 068874 versus the 07092. I was trying to think what's taking that off of the 06. Okay, just a second, that's, okay.
It's kind of hard, well, it's kind of hard to do whenever you have different values. Remember, you have different values that you're using
Yeah.
to it.
Wish I brought that 2019 worksheet with me to compare one year to the next.
I might have it here, let me look at that.
Yeah. Yeah, the worksheet.
So Judge,
Yes, sir.
if we go with that no new revenue rate, then our people's taxes would go up.
Yeah, we can't do that.
No, we're not going.
Yeah.
That's my
We
deal
would
right
have had to have
there.
a vote before now.
Yeah.
I don't have that one.
That's okay.
I have the notice, but I don't have the breakdown.
So INS rate of 0.68874, and I multiply it by the total appraised value, I come up with $5,062,000 dollar payment. That's exactly what we're looking at, so.
That's line 44.
Yeah. Okay, so those, if that's the case, then we're still okay. And then the next question is how we're gonna come out on the M&O rate. It looked like we were losing money for a while. We were concerned with the other day.
Yeah, but we can't lose $1 million.
Yeah,
That would hurt us.
yeah. Debbie, what Commissioner Harvey just pointed out was concerned in the M&O rate, you're gonna lose $1 million.
Well, when you, okay, so you know how much of your rate's gonna go to debt. Now you have to say, okay, how much of the remainder of the rate that we're proposing is gonna go to M&O times your total value. Now remember when we do the calculations, we're taking out the new properties. They generate more revenue. So your line 45, your 2020 total taxable value, including the new properties, $7,350,858,506.
Right.
On line 5. So if you say, hey, we want to have a rate of 65 cents, we don't want to go with, is that right?
653249, Deb.
Okay. And we take away our debt rate there, the 0.68874, then that difference is going to tell us, here's what we want for the M&O side. And that's both the M&O side for the general fund and road and bridge. So you've got some money, you know you're going to set aside the rate you want to set aside for road and bridge, and then there's that as well. Because we know that's going to be a different fund. Right?
Yes.
So how much do y'all want to do it separately? Do you have a set rate you want for?
Yes, we, road and bridge.
Road and bridge?
Yes, ma'am.
Combined.
Do you want what was calculated?
The,
You got a pen.
road and bridge rate, for no new revenue, that's would be right. Oh, it is, road and bridge is 030,888.
What was the rate on it? Point 04?
On line 26, it shows .030888. No new revenue for road and bridge.
That's what we do with
Yeah,
effective.
you're calculating at .0030888. That's the monthly revenue. But on the voter approval rate,
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, go back to that.
.040789.
Where are we?
One more time, Deb, on
What
that
line item?
04 what?
939.
39.
04,
It's gonna be on line,
47.
47.
No, you close that one. Now, let me point out something real quickly here.
Yes.
On line 7.040789. That includes a 3.5% increase. Now, you're not tied to the rates that you calculate here. What the county is tied to is the total rate and coming up with whether or not you trigger the election or you trigger special hearing. Or trigger the special, which notice you have to take. So you can decide, well, last year we had 3 cents in there, and this year we want to put 2 cents in there. It's totally left up to you that you can move between the 2 different funds as long as you don't go across over the constitutional limit. So you have some flexibility there. You're not actually have to keep it the same as it's always been. I mean, so you've been generating about what is it, $2 2.878 million for that fund. You still need that fund. You had a 4-cent rate last year. You still need 2.8, almost 2.9 million in that fund, or do you want to put some of that in that fund over to the general fund? That's a decision you get to make. You're not tied to 4 cents every year.
Correct, but both, what we were trying to do was keep both of those, given today's times, at what would have been the old effective rate, which meant because property value went up, both rates should have gone down.
But because we have this strange, now, and you can notice here on the special road and bridge,
Yes.
it goes down. Look at it, another revenue rate, 0.030888. And your rate last year was 4 cents, so it did go down slightly.
Right.
Willie, that new number that you came up with,
But on item 38, line 38, it shows a value of 0.03910.
03941. The reason for that is, as remember I said earlier, the
6.558.
big issue is the comptroller on line number 29.
Yep.
They're having us enter line number 8, which is the value is only taking out court decisions. It's not taking out the new exemptions and the new productivity value.
Okay.
In the old days, last year, we would have put line 13 there, which would have been a lower amount of value. But this year, they're saying no, use this higher number, and so therefore it's driving the rates down. And that's why your voter approval rate's coming out lower, because you have more value using against the set dollars. It's all a calculation thing, whether or not you have to trigger a certain notice.
Yep.
So it's a strange formula that they have to do. It's become very complicated. It was very tough on the comptroller's office this year to get the worksheets out. It running into issues and problems. And so it would be very nice if they'd go back and reconsider what they've done and maybe come up with something
Better
simpler,
luck.
that's more comparable to what was last year. You know your values went up 3.5%, but shouldn't the rates come down 3.5%?
Yeah.
This calculation doesn't do that because of all these adjustments. That's why it's taken us 70 steps to do this stuff. And like if you're young, I don't have to sales tax. I mean,
Yeah.
some of them just-
Mary.
What? On mine.
Not yours.
But here's the gist, Deb, that I'm getting out off of this calculation, that when Willie's number is slightly tweaked from when I spoke to you this morning. His calculation is 0.65558. That calculation is determined by him to be the same revenue as 0.6718 did for us in our last year's revenue. When I calculate each appropriate appraised total value by that rate, I'm within $60 of each other.
Which would be a great way of doing it. However, that's not the formula that they've given us to use.
It's the only one we've used for 100 years.
Well, no, but what am I missing? What's falling out of that mathematical equation that I done that says that 0.65558 is the same revenue as 0.671815 from last year?
Okay, so let's look at some of those steps. Let's look at line number 5 on either worksheet. Line 5 still shows worksheet. And this is where I sued the appraisal district. We got their value lowered in court. And so you have a $1 million value that's been added back in. That's one adjustment. Line number 6 is a new step. Because the lawsuit is still pending for going on. And you're going to lose out on that disputed value, the $3.9 million. So you're only going to get $22 million on those lawsuits in your 2019 value. And then you have up with the rate that we calculate here. It's saying if you want that 20 million, you have to raise the tax rate for it, the $20 million of value. You had only one property that had got the ag value, so you lost the value there on line number 11, C, 1.6 million. That means the taxes on that 1.6 million aren't going to be generated with the calculation. If you want the taxes on that 1.6 million, you may have to raise the tax rate. So those are adjustments that are taken out as being those properties aren't going to pay like they did last year because they're getting an exemption or they're getting ag value paying as taxes. So if we still want to pay enough taxes, everybody may have to pay at a higher rate because they're paying taxes then. So that's where and then of course you get to the other side of the equation, and the denominator is your new property. And that, in your case, is going to be over on line 23. Line 23 is for 2020. We've got some properties that weren't there last year, so they didn't pay taxes last year. And that's going to be your new buildings, new fixtures, new personal property in those new buildings. So y'all got 46.6 million of your total value that's new this year. That's supposed to generate new revenue or offset the losses that you had earlier. So the taxes I didn't get on the new exemptions, the taxes I didn't get on the ag taxes, I got to take those my new taxes. So this calculation is not exactly like y'all would do it, saying, okay, here's our
He'll need that.
what we're going to do.
They come out of his mouth.
That you're not doing. You're looking at your total value and how much it's going to bring in. And the only reason you're doing these steps is because the statute requires us to take this out and do this type of calculation. So I think the biggest misconception about the no new revenue rate is that it's comparable to last year's taxes, and that's not quite true. Comparable to last year's taxes on the same property paying taxes.
But it takes several $1 million out of our deal that we don't tax for, so that means the people that are left over have to share a bigger burden.
Right, so the people that got those new exemptions, the person that got that new ag value on their tract of land, they're gonna pay less taxes. If we as the county still need those tax dollars, we're gonna have to raise the rate a little bit for everybody else to pay a little bit more because these people aren't gonna pay like they did last year. Over the years, this has gotten to be a very complicated, convoluted calculation, and somewhat loses some of that, of what they were attempting to do. And it's probably a good time for them to really, I wish they would have done better changes for this year, but they did. They gave us more steps to it.
But under the numbers that I've got here on my chart, the no new revenue tax rate at 6.83300, voter approval tax rate at 6.73701. So if we do the no net revenue tax rate, we're automatically going to the.
But we can't do it, it's past the time, we have to,
Yeah.
yeah, we
Can't do
can't do
that
it.
now. You have to adopt the tax rate on August 17th. All the elections were November the 3rd. So you can't do that. So the highest rate you can go with is going to be the voter approval tax rate, 0.673701 or lower. That's the highest you can go as a total rate.
And how much revenue will we lose if we go at that rate?
Well, take the line 45, which is all your values. Multiply by that rate, 673701, divide by 100, and that's how much revenue you'll get. And once you get that number, then you start peeling things away from it. We know 5.09 million of that's going to go to debt. We know 2.8 million is going to go to the road fund. We know 614,000 is going to go to the TIF payment. And then you can kind of see what you got left.
In the TIF
I'm
payment,
talking about my calculator, so I have to put the numbers, but
I think on the TIF payment, and you mentioned that in the software, I think in the tax office, it includes interest and sinking and road and bridge. And we have notified the entities we're in that TIF agreement with, we're not gonna pay those. They're not part of the TIF. We created all of that after we went into those agreements. And if we pay on interest and sinking, then it doesn't leave that number whole. We have to subsidize it to pay. I don't know whether we're gonna wind up in litigation over that or what, but we don't see how that, nor Road and Bridge, which says it's dedicated solely to road and bridge expense, that we can pay that out of there. And
Well, there is not a part on, when you're doing the 2020 tax rate calculation on the debt part to account for that type of payment.
yeah.
So you have to look at what you put on line 40A as it being, you consider that being a debt payment. Typically most, of that 614,000 payments, is that what it is coupled, or is that just for the M&O stuff?
No, that's everything. What we believe that ought to be is a little over 500.
Okay. Well, it's adjusting for it right now based on what we know. Until you actually adopt the rate, you won't, it's going to be based on what the values for 2020 are on the captured value in those zones, times whatever rate you adopt. So then we know what that payment's going to be. So all we can go for on here is what it was in 2019.
Yeah.
And that's why we put the 2019 number on, it's on 31C.
Right, but the true 2019 number is less than what's showing there because that's what their software is.
Yeah, this is Willie, I'm judge's assistant. I've tried to tell the judge that he's looking at it wrong, because it's, the way you look at it is total collections equal the county plus TIF plus all the other adjustments, and they're independent. So that number that you use for the TIF tax rate is just a number, because the calculations take out the TIF from the county. They're independent. So if you lower the TIF tax rate, all you're doing is you're not doing anything for the county as far as getting more revenue.
Right.
You're just taking away, lowering the total collections.
Gotcha.
Right. What it's saying is, in the calculation worksheet, we're not using the value, the captured value of the TIF, and we're using taxes of the TIF, and we're saying, let's use all the other values. So it's adjusting both the numerator and the denominator by saying, we're going to remove those captured values, and that's 614,000 out of the calculation, and the rate that we come up with is what the county gets to keep.
So you're saying that number doesn't matter? I'm not,
It matters, but you need to understand that it's, so if you look at 18.
The higher the number, the
Okay,
better it helps.
so
I understand that.
calculate. We're trying to come up with a rate that will fund the county's budget, but excluding out the TIF stuff. So on 18D, we're deducting that 2020 captured value that goes to the TIF. In this case, $7.9 million of value. And that's in the denominator. In our numerator, we are taking out the 614,000. So what we're doing is we're saying, okay, here's the amount of tax account, that's the 614, and here's the amount of captured value that's associated with that. Now let's see what a rate would be for Judson County without that. You are going to levy on that captured value. You're going to set a rate against that captured value, and it's going to generate hopefully $614,000, depending on what rate you adopt. That payment, though, is not for you to keep because it goes to the TIF fund. If we didn't do that step, and that's the step the legislature put in, if we didn't do that, it would appear that you were going to be getting to keep $614,000
So we go ahead and we allow for 614, but we're only gonna pay TIF. Our figure shows 517,000 if you allow that you're only gonna pay on M&O.
Well, so what that's gonna mean is, okay, so we know the tax return is line 18, 120, indeed. 7,954,881. Until you adopt the tax rate, we don't know what that payment's gonna be because you're still kind of considering, well, what rate are we gonna adopt? That expense, that's one amount of payment. If we adopt 65 cents, that's a different amount of payment.
Okay. I follow where, I just didn't think it was.
It's okay to just probably accrue that, Judge, for some period of time. Truthfully, if we're gonna go ahead and collect the 614, in essence, that's what we're doing.
Yeah.
We're taxing against the 107 million in value, accrue that and just set it back for suspense.
Well,
If you did incur it at a later date that you were forced to pay.
okay, but then it's one thing to not be whole in road and bridge, but we're still gonna pay $5,062,000 out of the interest and sinking fund.
Well, let me ask you that question. On that note, I noticed, Deb, in this calculation, and bear in mind, we're seeing a worksheet to ourselves, Deb, but it shows a proposed debt payment in 2021 of $5,062,000. In the calculation on line 42, and again on line 40E, we're showing a debt calculation of $5,092,728.
Right. $30,000 less. And the reason is line 43E, 100.5.
Oh,
Yeah.
gotcha, okay. You answered that earlier and I just wasn't
Yeah.
making it in the equation, okay.
Yeah,
It's saying we're gonna levy $30,000 less with tax rate because we're gonna make that up with the recent collection.
Okay,
we hope.
Well, yeah, we hope.
That's a lot of hope for this coming year.
Correct.
Anne Marie better get busy.
If you don't collect that 105 million, you collect that 100% or something less than that, then the rest of that payment's gonna have to come out of your reserve fund for the debt. Or that city has fund.
Well, now, 2 years ago, we decided to use those excess funds in there to pay part of the interest and sinking tax so we could keep it down a little lower.
Yeah. So do you have any reserve built up there?
We have reserves, but not in that fund we can transfer. So that's not the problem, paying the money. It's just we try to.
Well, collect the 100.59% then, so you will have all the money you need, but again, it's a new step in the calculation that
Yeah.
is brand new for this year and some unintended consequences happening from it.
Deb, doesn't that depend on you and your firm? Is Jean Marie in charge of that?
I think Marie will give you as much money as they can possibly get.
There you go.
How about that? I think Tony's listening in, so he's gonna be hammering you.
and Deb, help me one more time just so that I can understand where I'm missing the total understanding of using last year's value with last year's rate, this year's value with the calculated rate, tying those numbers to equal the same revenue. The part that I'm missing in that equation is this year I have to take into account lines 5 and lines 23?
Well,
Or did I, if I levy a rate that equals the same revenue, am I okay?
We have to take into account 10, A and B.
You can levy a rate that equals the same revenue, but then you have to compare that rate to what we've calculated, your no new revenue rate and your voter approval rate, to see if it falls within those,
It does, it falls below both of them.
okay? Then if that gets you the revenue piece, then you're okay. Remember, because of these additional steps to this calculation, it's not as easy as all the y'all. And it used to be, the time when we started this process, it was as easy as we're doing, and the worksheet was maybe 1 page long. But over time, we have all of these little, we add in, we subtract out. To see how these relate to each other. So, to take the big thing y'all need to be able to do is take the value that you have for 2020 and know that it's gonna be all the value. And see what rate you're thinking about adopting. And then how much revenue you'll generate. Know of that rate, this amount you generate, where all the payments are required first. How much you have left.
But when I see the total value proposed, Deb, which is $7.3 billion of value, the new taxable value from new improvements, new personal, it's already in that number, correct?
And line number 45, right. Because when we do the debt rate, we include all of that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, what is the number we're using for the net county's tax base value? I've got,
It's, Judge, it's $7,350,858,506.
that's not any of the figures I have down.
Look on line 45.
Well, okay, then what is the stuff that we got from the appraisal district? That's before adjustments, is that the case? Yeah.
Yes. So the appraisal district's gonna be giving you that number for 2020, but then they're also telling you of that number, how much of that is new property.
Yes.
And when we do the calculation, we take out the new property. But when we want to know how much our rate that we're going to adopt is going to generate, that's why we look at line 45. Because we're going to let that tax rate into the property.
Okay.
So I think Michelle has given y'all a, or Michelle, are you still there?
Yes.
Yes, barely.
I think you had some notice that y'all would be using based on what proposed rate y'all go with.
Yeah, I have done one up with what I had last heard, which was .655580. I mean, we can always change it, but this would be the notice that I had already kind of put together here.
Okay.
So y'all can see what it would be.
That's the same number he came up with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what Willie agrees to as well.
And that's,
Well, I was basically
And I
on
kind of just filled this in.
getting the same revenue
They
that
want
we
to see
got
what
this
that would
year.
look like.
Correct. It's within $60.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Willie, go ahead.
So, you know, you could go up higher because that 6.65550 is below the voter approval and no new revenue rates,
Right.
calculated
Yeah,
rates. And
the
also
highest you
the
can go up
the
to
minimus rate.
5737, here when the voter approval rate. The no new revenue rate's out the window for y'all because we passed August the 17th. We
Right.
didn't do that one now.
I'm sorry, say that again, Deb.
The no new revenue rate, the higher rate, the .6833, you had to have, if you wanted to go that high, you would have had to have adopted the rate by August the 17th.
Right, okay.
Following elections for November the 3rd. So you can't do that because that's above your voter approval rate. So the highest rate y'all have the opportunity to adopt now is the voter approval rate, the .673701, which, you know, is almost 2% more than what you're proposing.
But that's still below last year's rate.
No, it's
No.
higher.
No?
No.
No, 6.7.
5 is lower than .67.
No, .6737 is higher. That's the voter-approved rate, proposed voter-approved
No,
rate.
that's not what we're going to.
That's not what we
Six-
said.
No,
Six
but
five five.
the question was, .6737 is higher than our rate today. We had a 3.75% increase in appraised value. When you multiply that by this increased rate, you're gonna have a lot more money than you raised last year. .6558,
I think you missed the question. He just said that the 6.5 is a lower number than we had last year, 6.7.
yeah, but we're not talking about that rate. That's out of the thin blue sky rate. She's talking about the highest rate you can go is the voter approved rate. It's a calculated rate. The calculated rate, the calculation comes up with nothing to do with .65558. It's not in part of our calculation.
We understand that.
Okay,
I think it's-
6558 just gives us the same revenue that we had last year.
that's correct.
Yeah, and that's what he was saying, that the people will see at 6.5
Yeah.
is lower than the 6.7.
It's
But let
lower.
me just make sure that everybody, if they, I didn't get this correctly. You had a general fund rate last year, 2019, of .671815.
Right.
And you had a road and bridge tax rate last year of .04. So your total rate last year was .711815.
No, Deb, the road and bridge would come out of the 6.7.
Yeah.
Our total rate, including INS, R&B, and M&O, is .6718.
Oh, okay. So, I think maybe that's the issue right there. Michelle, look at line number 4 on the general fund.
Okay.
That's .671815 there. Does that include that 4 cents in there? Because the 4 cents is going to be on the other worksheet.
Oh, well, that's a total adopted rate. That should be less
It should be just.
without the road and bridge rate?
It'd be less fun.
No, because what you're gonna do is you do both of them separately and then you add them together.
Yeah.
Down on line number 27.
Of the main sheet, okay,
Which is gonna mean that, that's gonna make us the other way though. That's gonna make the 4 cents coming off of that, it's gonna lower that rate on your no new revenue rate. And
So take the 4 cents off the .617, right?
Right. On line number 4, the general fund calculation, that should be whatever
Yeah.
whatever's done to the general fund adopted rate.
Okay, got you.
okay.
Because you have the 4 cents on the worksheet.
Okay,
Okay.
right.
711815, and I keep going like, man, you sure kept the rate a lot.
So what you're saying is the no new revenue rate could be .643300.
Right, if we change that rate there from .67, take away the 4 cents, .63, and you go down here, it's gonna lower the rate there on line number
27.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, it
to
does
us,
make
Deb.
sense. I just couldn't understand that.
I couldn't hear you, thank you.
this road bridge is a little bit different thing.
Oh, yeah.
Because I've always put the total adopted right there.
Yeah.
And see, and like last year, I just started doing the two worksheets, so I will correct that,
Right.
get that to you.
Well,
Yeah.
do not feel any guilt that this thing
No.
is not.
It's brand new.
easy.
Oh,
Yeah,
Debbie,
it's
you
super
still have all
hard.
your hair from trying to explain this to us?
Deb,
I have to work it.
Okay, so we'll get a new worksheet.
Trying to knock over the constitutional limit, so that's even.
Oh. I see what you're saying.
So just to see how, so you're still gonna, the Metro Road and Bridge is 4 cents, and it looks fine. Coming out to, right at 4 cents. And so now what's the only changes over here on the general fund line, actually just the general fund rate on line 4. So once you do that 4 cents off there, it's gonna drop line 26 a little bit, and it's gonna then drop the overall rate on line 27. So then your new revenue rate probably fall below your voter approval rate.
Okay.
Or be close to it.
Okay.
Which it should.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I couldn't
Well,
understand.
it didn't make sense.
Yeah,
Okay.
All right.
So my Aggie math's not all that.
no.
Now, but again, the things that do affect it are that debt rate and where the comptroller was doing it. But it does help that we, we put the right, start off the right adopted rate. So I apologize, I thought we had a 71-cent rate, obviously. Was this different?
I'm glad we don't.
A couple of curious questions. If we go with the no new revenue rate, so which would mean we'd be using none of that 3.5%.
Correct.
In the Texas Association of Counties guide on this, it says you can actually hold back and put 3 years of that 3.5% in, I guess, plus your 4th year, and you wouldn't be subject to an election.
Right, you can bank, so let's say you don't use any of the 3.5.
Yeah.
You can bank at 3.5 for next year, and you can bank for 3 years. And you can have then a little bit higher increase in future years. Just be aware that, that is something legislature put in place at the last minute,
Yeah.
and they can come and decide, no, we're not gonna do this.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's exercised it, so maybe they won't see that. But yeah, that's,
So on the worksheet next year, there will be a place where that 3.5 cents will be entered if you don't use any of it.
yeah.
And so it will allow for there to be a higher voter approval tax rate next year.
Okay. Then the de minimis, the 500,000, whether you're Loving County or Harris County, where does that add in and not trigger? Can you put it on top of the voter approved tax rate, which would take you over and still not trigger election, or does it have to be something between the no new revenue and the voter approved tax rate?
So the de minimis rate is not part of the calculation, it's a separate one. And it's looking at your no new revenue and the no rate, that's without the 3.5. It's looking at a rate that gives you $500,000 plus the difference. And so in your case, it's not very much money. It's a de minimis rate of 6.660050. It was put in place for someone who their voter approval rate doesn't, their rate is so low, the value is so, their property value, that their voter approval rate is 3.5%, doesn't give them very much money. And so their de minimis rate allows them to get a lot more money, $500,000 for a county that's only levying $300,000. That's a huge increase.
Yeah.
But they can have a petition drive between the voter approval rate and the de minimis rate. They went over the de minimis rate with an automatic election. So the only purpose for the de minimis rate
This is Mark.
is that if I go above the voter approval rate, and the rate is higher, then I can have a petition drive, not an automatic election. In y'all's case, your voter approval rate is higher.
Okay.
And so the interest rate doesn't really have any impact for you. It's only when you go above your voter approval rate, well, it's higher than the.
Okay. I kinda read it that way, but I'd rather have somebody that knows more than I do say that. So really,
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's really for those small counties, small cities that don't budget very much, you call it the automatic election to spend most of their tax increase.
yeah,
And so it gave them ability to raise the taxes, but not have to have an automatic election and spend it for that purpose. They can still have a petition drive.
yeah.
You're less likely to have petition drive.
Of course, the smaller the county, the fewer the people, yeah, it's not as hard to get a petition because everybody knows everybody.
Right, it only requires 3% of the people to sign the petition.
Yeah.
versus The old law was 10% on the side of the county, so, it's a little bit easier to get a petition drive, but most of the time, they're not talking about very much money. I mean, I've had some that for 3.5% only got them like $30,000. So it's like, well, you know, that's not enough, and so they're going by the voter approval rate, taking a risk that they won't have a petition drive.
Okay. Golly.
There's some really small cities out there, and even a few small counties that
Yeah.
don't live property tax.
Well, you get out to West Texas, and unless they've still got oil and gas value, and there's so much ag that there's more cows than there are people in that county. If the cows had to pay tax on the people, we'd be all right.
I feel a lot better now.
Yeah, I do too.
I do too.
Because that other was wrapping my head.
Man, I couldn't get it. I couldn't figure out how we got there. But I see how we got there now.
Yeah.
Sure.
Michelle, are you comfortable with the numbers now that you know where to have,
Yeah.
plug this back in?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
That'd be good.
We want to post this and then post that on Monday's agenda, we're going to announce the tax rates and vote on the following, on Tuesday,
Tuesday.
and vote on it the following Monday,
Will we have our meeting on Tuesday or Monday?
on Monday.
Monday.
Let people have a look at it.
So this notice that I want to do, don't they have to have that in the paper 5 days before they vote on it, Debbie?
Okay.
7.
So the first has to happen for this notice is that you have to take a vote on a proposed rate. Because in the notice in the paper is going to show how you voted on the proposed rate.
Correct.
And that notice has to be 5 days before you have the public hearing on the proposed rate.
Yeah.
So are y'all proposing a rate today, or are you proposing?
No,
something?
no, well, we do have, let's see, how's the agenda? Review and discuss proposed 2021 budget, no action item, so we can't do that today. So what you're telling us, we're gonna do this Tuesday. We can get it in the paper. Get it in tomorrow, if we, are we gonna put it in Wichita or in Electric?
Electra?
You're going to electric.
Heck, yeah.
Okay, so we can get that in to them today to make sure,
Tomorrow before noon?
well, yeah,
Is that when it has to go then?
yeah,
Oh, I could change that calculation up pretty quick and have that done.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, then we'll do that, and then that would give it, now that paper doesn't come out until when?
Thursday,
Thursday?
isn't that correct?
Are we talking Thursday the 10th or Thursday the 3rd?
Thursday, the
Third.
third.
The 3rd, okay, so you're gonna meet tomorrow and propose a rate?
No, we can't do that way.
No, you have to take 2 hours, so, of the meeting notice, so, right?
We were gonna meet the following Tuesday, Deb, a week from tomorrow.
Okay, so on September the 8th, you're gonna meet and have an action item to propose the tax rate to take a vote.
That's correct.
And the notice is put out in the newspaper on September the 10th. And it's gotta be out for at least 5 days before the hearing.
Oh, we've got plenty of
Let's say
time.
our final meeting on the 15th.
Yes. No,
14.
14.
Okay, the
That-
14th.
that-
Paper comes out on the 10th. you gotta wait at least 5 days. That's 2, 3, 4, 5, the 15th. In order for you to make the 14th, you have to have it in the paper on the 3rd.
Okay, but we've got enough time to finish this and vote on it, because the tax rate, if we voted on it, if we wait until after that, that's gonna be the,
Gotta be on the paper for 5 days. That's it. It comes out the paper on the 10th, so you've gotta wait. Could not be before the 15th or after that. Because it's gotta be available for everybody to see for at least 5 days.
okay.
So your meeting, your public hearing on to discuss that proposed rate and actually to adopt it, if you're ready to adopt it, and would be no earlier than December the 15th.
Why couldn't we post and do it right?
You would have to adopt the budget before you adopt the tax rate. Now, the new thing about the law change is that you're only having one public hearing, and you can adopt the tax rate at that hearing, but you got to adopt the budget before you adopt the tax rate. So, if you're not proposing a rate for the 8th, and you're putting in the paper, it comes out on the 10th, you could not have that hearing until the 15th of September. And your action items on that would generally be public hearing on the proposed rate, action items to adopt the tax rate, action items to adopt the budget, action items to adopt the tax rate.
We could do all that on the 21st and have plenty of time.
If you do it on the 21st. If you do not adopt the rate at the hearing, and you say, well, we're gonna wait on the rate at that hearing, you have to announce the date come in place when we are gonna adopt it, and that has to be within 5 days. But just know, if you're gonna do it on the 21st, then you're gonna adopt it on that day, because otherwise, you're gonna have to be adopting it later that week.
Yeah. The question is, do we still have to have the county judge's proposed budget filed for 2 weeks before it's voted on?
I think that's the provision of the local government code, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah. Okay, but we can get that, if we get it in, it's gonna have the proposed tax rate in it. But it's proposed in that budget. I couldn't find where it's said one way or the other as far as publishing that to meet that requirement.
Well, your the budget part of it, I mean, until you have it, so how to say this, you're putting together the budget.
Yeah.
And you're saying, here's the rate we're thinking about, but it's not officially been proposed by the commissioner's court, because you haven't taken
Well,
care of it.
it gets proposed by the county judge, has to be filed, and under, I think, the local government code, as you said, it has to be up for 2 weeks before it can be voted on.
Right.
But I don't know anything in there that restricts us from putting that in and then adopting that rate, because mine's only proposed. They're almost like two separate things, you know, merge, you know, down the highway.
When is our deadline, Judge?
Budget has to be adopted and filed by the 30th. I don't want us to wait.
Right, no, we need to go.
But I think we can do the 21st and get it all.
So the notice about the tax rate, if you decide it's a public hearing on the proposed tax rate, it's going to be on the 21st, you could put that notice out the 10th or the 7th. It would have to be the 10th, because the 17th won't give you
Right.
5 days. It has to be in the paper on the 10th, which means you need to propose that rate to get it in, how you voted on the proposed rate, so that if you have to take the paper on the 8th, then that's the latest you can propose a rate next week.
Yeah, and then the 17th then you have to vote on it within 7 days of the time it's proposed, and that would get us from Monday to Monday.
We talked, well, now For the tax rate, from the time you propose the tax rate until you adopt the tax rate, there's no provision
No.
anymore. There's no set time of 14 days anymore. That was all taken away by the
Oh.
two. So what you do is you have one ad that you put in the paper, and it has to be out there at least 5 days before your public hearing, but it can be longer than that. So in your case, it comes out in the paper on the 10th saying, we're gonna have a public hearing on the proposed rate on September the 21st. And it will show how y'all voted on that proposed rate. Then on the 21st, you will have the hearing on the proposed rate, and then have an action item to adopt the budget and then adopt the tax rate.
Okay. All right.
And you adopt the budget by the 21st.
I'm sorry, say that again.
And you adopt the budget by the 21st.
That's what I've got to double check on.
Yeah.
But we can call the meeting for another day.
I sure can.
Sure.
So your drop dead deadline is to adopt the tax rate September 29th.
We can adopt the budget in a special call, we can't adopt the tax rate in a special call. Is that correct?
I don't know.
Well,
I don't think we can adopt the tax rate in a special call. I think it has to be,
It has to be September 29th.
it has to be a post,
Or a regular meeting.
regular meeting.
Correct.
You can't do a special call meeting for adopting tax rate.
Nancy, our regular meetings are Monday and Friday?
No.
Just
we
Monday.
have Special,
Special.
Mondays are regular.
Yep.
All right,
So it has to be on the Monday meeting.
okay. Okay, we just need to do a little calendar work and make a call about this other. Let's see what we got. It's on the county judge's qualification. Okay. What else, Dan? Hey Deb, you've just stunned us. Good. I do really appreciate the time zone and everything else. And, you know, we do appreciate your firm, how good a partner as you all are with local government. It really works out
Oh,
well.
God, we love them.
Thank you.
Let us know.
You're welcome.
Or stop if you think, let me know, okay?
Thank you very much.
Andy.
Okay, take care, y'all.
You know we're losing her the end of the year?
No,
She's retiring.
well, she was a consultant.
She's gonna be kind of a full-time grandmother.
Oh, seems to be a theme lately.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I will find out on my budget filing.
Critical element.
Yeah, we don't want that to squirrel up kind of stuff. Okay. I didn't find anything in that county. So, okay. Anything else when you talk about on the budget? Willie, you got anything we have?
Not you or me.
We've got the tax rate.
Okay, and so you feel clear on the adjustments to the salary for the court administrators and, okay. So, okay. Then if there's nothing else, and we do appreciate your all's assistance.
Oh, thank y'all for mudding.
6558.
Oh, sure.
If you'll get that, send it.
That
over.
helped. Still as clear as mud.
How they,
But we may be, well, I'm anxious to get that calculation
Yeah.
and just see where 6558 lines up against what you propose now.
Yeah.
Well, it sure helped when we got that other out of there.
Yeah.
4 cents.
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
Okay. And I understand they said total tax rate,
Yeah.
so total tax rate, but.
Well, we've all looked at it 9 million times. We never
Well, yeah, I
saw
didn't even
that.
think about that, tell you the truth.
No matter how descriptive that is, it's
Yeah, Debbie's looked.
Yeah, Debbie's looked at it, yeah.
in your scenario.
Pictures. a lot of calculations, a lot of numbers, it just,
And the
Yeah,
software.
take this in, put this out.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
don't count this 20 million or this 5 million.
And the software's been crazy.
well, we got new software this year
It's-
because of all the new calculations.
And it's been
And it's been
terrible.
updating daily as we're doing it, so I had to go back and redo it a lot just to make sure it's correct.
Right.
So we've checked over this thing like 100 times before we sent it to you.
And that's not a joke.
Yeah,
That's-
oh.
Yeah, it's awful. I see why. She's in and out of that.
The gentleman,
So do I need to leave this on so I have witnesses?
I just have a leak in the election room again.
Oh.
so much for that meeting with Amoresco tomorrow. Very deal. All right, thank you all.
Sure.
Okay, anything else?
Pardon me?
I said anything else,
Yes. Not from them,
but for us, you still.
but for us.
Okay, well, we're gonna head out then.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you all very
I'll
much.
get over to work on that worksheet, get it right to you.
Okay, send it
Okay.
back to Billy and this time, all county commissioners will all get it.
Okay,
Thank you, Michelle.
sure.
Y'all want us to stay? How long do you think that might take you?
You take me about 10 minutes.
Oh, that long?
Okay.
Okay, I'll see.
Oh, that long, isn't it? I'm on a timer now, aren't I?
Got to change that one.
Well, I was gonna try to keep their attention and keep them in here so we can all look at it at the same time.
We jumped over item number 3. Did you do that on purpose?
Item number 3.
On the general business? The 2? Let me get my glasses on here.
No, we went back to 2.
did it.
We
We
did,
picked it up.
I announced 2, we actually worked on 3, voted on it, then we went back and voted on 2.
I
Which-
didn't write down a vote for 3.
We did not vote on 3.
I didn't have a vote.
We did not consider her at
I
all.
have down 5-0.
On 2.
No, on 3.
On
And
3, I think that was the one to delete the number 4 position and
That's right, you made us do it twice.
vote on 3.
Okay, I don't care, we can correct it, but what I did, I realized the motion had more to do with 3 than it did with 2. Because the first step would have been to eliminate the position, but the conversation went really to 3.
Yeah, which did not include her.
You were talking to Mark and you were talking to him about taking out of your travel budget and Mark didn't agree with it, so you said, okay.
Yeah, and we had I mean, if y'all think that, and you didn't hear that, then let's correct that.
Well, I think that, I mean, she should be compensated.
Yeah, that was.
Because right now, she's not.
Okay, who are we talking about? Joyce?
Joyce.
Oh, okay.
That was my intent too. I thought that
Well,
was
Mark,
part of the
okay,
deal.
Mark said he would not accept that amendment.
No, with the district judge's money.
No, you said with judge's travel money, because he
Yeah.
said he wanted it to come out of the salary lines.
He said we
Oh, well.
wouldn't have to be with anybody else.
Is that what we've done? Salary line only?
Well, no. Okay, we started out with that being that it was salaries only we did not look at. And then we approved that for John.
Yes.
Okay, so the district judges came back and they stepped all the way through, the same as John, less the healthcare money. So we broadened it where we started from to where we did. We didn't go that far. And when I asked Mark if he would take that as an amendment, he said no. Because he'd already made a motion and you'd already seconded it. And when we voted, we
But-
realized we were voting on item 3, not on item 2, and that's why I went back to 2.
Well, we didn't understand it like that. We thought we were voting on item 2, and we were gonna tackle item 3 next, and you skipped right over it and went on. I said, that's
He
like,
went to
that's,
3 and then backed up and then we jumped.
yeah.
The dialogue was never about item 2. When I announced it, when you all started talking about it, we talked about 3. And then I realized when I was writing down the vote that that was on item 3 and not on 2. We're still in session if you want to
It was
straighten it.
confusing. Well, it needs to be fixed. My intention was that we were gonna do that. I thought we had, but I understand there was confusion there.
But the other thing is, I'm not sure, that we can do that.
Well, how you-
I think we had a motion on that number 2, and the motion was, I mean, you're gonna have to make a whole other motion, and can you do that?
Yeah, well, that's what it's intended to, that's what's a separate item.
Okay, item 2, if you read it, was to eliminate position number 4.
And I know we did that.
And
Eventually, we-
And it doesn't say anything about Department 401 in that item.
No.
Not in number 3.
As much as I would like to do that, I don't think it's there. And we did, because that's what, and Nancy, I don't know, did you go back and listen to the recording? Is that a yes or no?
Oh, do you want me to go back and listen?
Well, I just asked you, did you go back?
No, I
Okay.
know what was, I was listening to you guys, and I was
yeah, I know what was said too.
very disappointed that 3 was just
Well,
sliding.
when we voted on that, and I looked down at that, because I wrote it down under 3, and I went, wait a minute, we were actually on 2, but we never, until after I said that, I said, we've actually voted on number 3. And I said, we've got to go back and take action on number 2.
Well,
Well, we voted on number 2, how to split the money up to 48.5 and not
And
48.7.
number 2, you couldn't do that, because that's not what number
that's
2
not
is
what it
about.
is.
That's what we did?
We talked about it, and that's when I said we have actually taken action on number 3.
But it does say, and reallocate unused salary, benefits, and
Yeah.
overtime on number 2.
Because they even put their worksheet in, their email.
Okay.
I
Barry and I both thought we were gonna address
I
number
thought
3.
number 2 just addressed the district judge's request.
Me too.
Okay, and reallocate,
And then you had a second motion on number 2
To remove the position.
yeah. And then we had the discussion to allocate the salaries, which means we really didn't need,
To go back.
well, we didn't need 3 probably.
Well, it didn't address 3.
Well, let's consider.
Well, what's the option, Judge?
Well,
at this point?
three in our minds was just dealing with Joyce's salary.
That's right.
Oh, it's your, okay, adjust the county court coordinator, I'm sorry, yeah.
That's what we
Okay.
thought.
All right,
I thought it was
then y'all are right, yeah, I follow, okay. So if you want to do that now, you can.
Well, I'd kinda like to leverage it for $254.
I want to take care of it. Do we need a motion, Judge? Or we already passed it?
No, we didn't, no,
Okay.
I stand corrected on it, we did not
Well, I
do
would
that.
make the motion that we adjust that. I thought it was done, that, but
No.
it obviously wasn't.
But that opened the door for my $254 for JP too. Hey, I want that $254.
Guys, I gotta join a conference call with the hemp guys in about 5 minutes.
Oh, you go.
So,
You go get that money.
no, I'm going to, but we need to, you need a quorum. Well, you got one, but still.
Yeah.
Well, let's get this.
Patty's got a question, Judge.
Yes, ma'am,
Where's the money coming from?
travel.
Okay, so when, that was the question I was gonna have earlier, and then everything got mixed up.
Yeah, well, I agree with
So
that.
if I save money in my travel budget, because I don't travel, or I get reimbursed like you do, I can use that money for salaries?
If we vote for it.
Yeah, it could be proposed. Hey, this is, yeah, and it should be the same for everybody.
It should be.
Yeah.
I mean, but we know.
The only difference, and of course, that is that, number one, that will be for the 2.5 years I have left in the if I stay longer, then I'll still be on that committee and I still get my travel card. But the next county judge won't have the seniority to come in and do that.
It won't be there. It won't be there.
But I don't believe that we'll have the same staffing arrangements then. But
That's true.
part of the reason, and Willie mentioned it, and Commissioner Muller came in with that idea this morning. And I had proposed that, but I was looking at coming out of that court coordinators, because I was also wanting to pay the court reporters, because I know what they're gonna do to us. And we have nothing to do but say thank you when they hit us with a 10% increase on them next year on the 5 of them for 2022.
And I know it's still in my budget to hire 2 people, because I can foresee what's fixing to happen. Is they're gonna request us again to be in the courtroom, and we're gonna have to make arrangements for that. So I'll end up having to hire 2 people.
Mark, you've missed some deep discussion since you've gone. You should have left a recorder on.
Yes, sir.
I thought I was tracking, but I'm not. The travel money is going where exactly?
To salary for my court coordinator.
Okay. No, I'm sorry. I was just looking at you. I wasn't looking at you for that.
Would she assume duties?
She picked up some more duties.
She's picked up, as I picked up probate and mental health.
Yeah. No, yeah, so I mean, she's doing more so she could pay more.
Yes.
But then you said that within 2 years, it's possible that that money wouldn't be there because
She could retire and I could retire.
could.
Yeah.
But it's a position that needs extra money, right?
Well, it's gonna go up to that amount.
The next county judge that comes in
He'll stay there.
doesn't have to do the judicial, they can decline it, and then you don't.
So what, I guess I'm just curious, if the next judge does do that and they say, I don't want to do it, how do you supplement the income?
You know, she loses it.
So she'll lose it just by default?
Yes. Every budget year is different.
Yeah, there's nothing beyond a 1-year guarantee.
Matter of fact.
Yeah, we've had that
everybody's
discussion
budget.
before, right? That seems, that seems kind of weird, like, if I were to receive a raise, out of the goodness of your heart, I think that's great, but if I were to receive a raise because they said, you're doing a great job, we think you deserve this money, I would just hope that it would be a little more solid than.
Well, Patty's got the same scenario. Tell him about your scenario, Patty, where don't you have 2 people paying out of the fund?
Yeah, out of 239.
So there's a fund that court costs go into, make up a pot of money that Patty pays 2 employees out of.
Because
But I've only done that for what, 3 years now?
3 years.
I still disagree with that, and that's not what the money's for. And I've got it on record, and so if we ever get audited and all that, and I tell them what I'm paying that money for, it's not on me.
But what my emphasis is that there is great consideration for the fund to go away. If that fund goes away, so do those positions.
That'll be this year, I believe.
You know, you might
Next year.
have
It's kind of the same scenario. It's not necessarily how you get a raise. You get a raise in a different manner. These are caveats to that. You get a raise and that raise doesn't go away. But some of those positions are based on more anomalies or caveats in the equation than others, just like this one.
I guess it just concerns me that there are employees in the county family that receive, I guess, their salary from, over here, and some of those are not guaranteed.
Not guaranteed.
It just concerns me, and I think it would concern anyone that knew that.
Sure.
That's why we don't like
It concerns the employee.
Yeah, I hope
I
so.
promise you it does.
I mean, I could come into the next year and I haven't lost any responsibility, but I might lose income.
Awesome.
And that's a bummer.
But it's a bummer, and, I saw people when I was in the military, they got hazard duty pay or pro pay. That was great when they're going along. Then you came out of a slot that you were in hazard duty or jump pay or pro pay, all of a sudden your income got cut by several $100s a month.
but your lifestyle had planned on that happening. And all it took was somebody in DOD to change which of those jobs were considered those things, and boom, money went away.
I'm not an expert on like the military and how you get employed with them, because I've never been in service, but I mean, aren't you kind of like in a contract with them? You're not in a contract with the military? You can just leave anytime you want to?
You take an oath to serve.
So if you leave, nothing happens to you?
Yeah, you get arrested.
Oh, okay, so you're in a contract.
Yeah. Hey,
If you
well,
leave this job, you can choose to leave, and we can choose to at-will them.
Yeah.
So it's just, I'm concerned, it bothers me.
Yeah.
I'm just
But
putting that out there.
You agree to obey the orders of the President of the United States, and those officers placed it over you. And there's no delineation of all that. It's a very one-sided thing now.
And this is not the military.
No,
No.
no. There's much more, you know,
except for the newspaper applies to our officers as soldiers. Because you guys are soldiers and not officers. But y'all are like extra mean to the the protesters.
We haven't had any riots here.
I was just watching the news.
Oh.
The other side of that is if David's not reelected, you get a new sheriff in.
You might not even have your
You
job.
might have to
there's
try.
the bummer right there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A new elected official comes in, can let everybody go. You get unemployment compensation, and that's it.
I guess I've never thought about it that way.
It's-
Well, no,
it's
no,
a
because that's
real
something in my
possibility.
job that concerns me, but I guess
It would be kind of ridiculous in real life.
historically speaking, that
It'd
doesn't.
be kind of stupid of the new sheriff to fire his staff.
But it is an
They
real
have
possibility.
It is, it exists.
There's
That
plenty,
exists.
it's not as bad as it used to be, but it used to be when a new office holder came in, you could have, when I came to county judge, Willie and Luan said, are we gonna be part of the staff? I said, you all know more about this than I do.
But you didn't know.
No, you don't know, that's the bad thing about working for
Well,
a.
who screwed up and hired Nancy? Well, what was that?
Yeah, well, blame Marion.
Yeah.
Oh, Pat did it?
Pat liked the way I was dressed.
All right, what else
Okay.
we got?
Barry made a motion, I think I heard that, to do the $2,000 out of my travel budget plus salary expense. And make that modification. He didn't say effective when.
Well, I would assume that it would be
Well,
January 2021.
no. Okay, the other stuff we did today, but yeah, you're right, it shouldn't be before then, so.
Can I,
But he's not here to make, I'm sorry, what, he's,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no, not what?
Since the district and county court coordinators are going to get those new duties added onto them, and their pay is gonna be effective the next pay period. Joyce has been doing the duties since March.
Yeah.
What new duties is she doing?
Well, all of Judge's new court proceedings, you know, his bookings and what he's got to be in court now.
Well, he's been doing that this whole time.
Well, I know, but in a heavier fashion now, he's taken on some relief for the CCLs. And so
You're doing more than you were.
quite a bit more.
Joyce has been setting hearings and all that, working with attorneys.
Is there a coordination that has to happen? Is there a calendar that they use internally that's separate than the?
Joyce can answer that better if you want her in here.
Well, I just wondered if,
She's the one that does, she's trained me a little bit from whenever she goes on vacation.
that you can still set them somehow?
Yeah, but I do like,
Do you have to talk, do y'all have to talk to the other girls?
oh yeah, she does a lot of work with the county clerk's office,
Well, I mean, the other CCLs, do they wonder which ones he's taking versus what they're taking? How do they come to you, Judge? How does Gary and Greg know that you're gonna do these cases and they don't have to worry with them?
They file, the cases are filed in the county clerk's office, and then they transfer them to my docket.
and then I pick them off the judge's edition.
Okay, out of
I do the
Odyssey.
hearings, and then the administration of the probate goes back to Terry, looking at the inventories and things. One of the other judges, any of the three of us can sign off on those. We all have common jurisdiction.
Did we take motion or take action to approve it raise this morning?
No.
No, that's what came back up a while ago. Lee brought it
I
up.
thought we were in item 3, and actually we did, you know, item 2 had the latitude to do the rearrange the salaries and do it.
So my question was, since you didn't travel at all this year, could that be prorated back to March?
No, not prorated back.
No, you can't do that. That, I mean, legally, you can't do that. But you can make it effective the same, but we need a new motion. Barry's not here to clarify these things, so there's a new motion or nothing happens.
So make the motion how you want it to go.
Okay, the court, the motion would be to approve, $2,000 annual increase in the county court coordinator's position to be effective beginning the, next regular pay period and continue into the 2021 budget. It'd be paid from the 401 county judge's travel line. Up to $2,000 plus salary expense.
How do you? That's all of it?
Yeah.
Up to
And that's-
$2,000 plus travel expense.
No, $2,000 out of the travel expense.
Okay.
And that's under what line item?
In 401 out
No,
of that.
no, and what general business item on the
That's
agenda?
under
3.
Read 3, I misread it too, Mark.
Okay, because you asked for me to amend my motion on 2 for that, and I told you I didn't think it was right because we had not done that for other departments.
And the way, Mark, I thought that what we meant was that you didn't think it was right to use the money that
From
the
the district judges.
district judges brought to the table for the function of paying Joyce.
But in reality, the only action was really taken on item 2.
Right.
Okay, we didn't, and Commissioner Harvey brought it back up a while ago that we hadn't taken any action on.
Well, I just wondered why you skipped it.
I thought we did it. I totally misread the way that was.
Well, Barry asked me, he said, why did Judge skip 3? I said, I don't know. I said, just ask him.
Well,
when
we
get
kind of
back in.
touched on it, but in a different light. I thought
right,
Mark's
right.
proposal dealt with the fact that
was
he didn't
district
think
attorney.
that money should come out of the district judge's monies in order to pay Joyce.
That's what
I
I
didn't
took it
think we
to.
should take it out of a general line item. We've always said if we're gonna make the adjustments in payroll, then it need to come out of a payroll line item, not a supplies or whatever line item. We've told other departments that.
But Judge conceded on $254 for the precinct 2 secretary, so that's fair.
Well, and, I mean, I still, I know it's not in the same department, but we have a large decrease in the county auditor's budget, and we have some freeboard there to be able to
We may have.
move about, may have.
No, there's
Well-
not any money on that one. That 100.59% of collection, if we do that.
Oh, you mean,
Yeah.
well, I'm just saying that there's actually 2 positions down within the auditor's deal that the auditor,
And Lou, Brandon, Fielder, Collin, and Mott have been at 100 plus since I've been here.
But they have been through this next year,
Well-
Commissioner, I don't think you can bet on tax revenue next year like you have now over the last 20 years.
I think-
And on the other income, hey, you have a feel for how much your filings, are they down or not?
They're down some.
Some.
I just feel like they are. I can't run any reports,
Yeah.
but
Are you still owed about $6 million in fines and fees that people haven't paid you?
oh yeah, it's probably more than.
Get on your horse and go get that stuff.
Give me a computer
Lee-
system that works.
what could potentially happen, a large is deferred payment plans could eat us up. So you got promises to get the money, you just don't have the money, and, or you could get the money towards the end of the tax cycle instead of the front of the tax cycle. Those things could occur, you know, that
Well, I think they do occur.
How about bankruptcies?
bankruptcies, I'm not considering, they're gonna be substantial.
I'm just telling you, anything we haven't paid out, I'm not betting a thing. We're going with the best information we have right now. But I say we're gonna have to be very conservative. The things that we're doing, that Commissioner Beecham's in charge of, I think are pretty essential to get that done. Get
Oh, I do
that
too.
Yeah,
done,
we've got to.
I do too.
Get Ms. Flores' office is redone. And take care of the jury room up there.
I know that if we do Patty's office before we do Tommy's office, there's gonna be a killing.
Is the killing coming to us, or
No.
is Tommy killing
I
Patty?
think it's gonna come to the judge. You promised me.
Well, I haven't taken the promise out there, you just have to fund it.
Patty may kill you too, she's waited a long time
You know, she's waiting.
for renovation
Have you
too.
waited longer than Tommy?
Yeah.
I was supposed to be before Tommy.
Oh,
But then
okay.
I said, no, Tommy can go first because I knew y'all wanted to take the courtrooms. And that's the only way the courtrooms can get bigger is
Oh, yeah.
take my office. I knew it was coming
So why don't we
eventually, so
put
why
you?
would do it to redo it? But I still do not think that's gonna be enough room.
You got ideas?
You got more than, you
That
got,
end. I just don't think it's gonna be enough room.
you have,
for-
you'll have more square footage than what you have right
We're talking
now.
about
No, I'm not
juries.
talking about me. I'm talking about for the jurors.
Well,
I
what
don't
it-
think that's
it's-
as big as the 30th District Court.
It's not going to be at first, but when we do the full remodel, it will be.
Where are you gonna put the jurors, sheriff's
Okay.
office?
In Patty's area,
You gonna put Patty in the sheriff's office?
yeah.
Well, a law library's coming out of there, and,
Yeah, law library.
Eventually, yeah.
Eventually.
Interview rooms going in there?
Interview rooms will go downstairs,
Yeah, too.
yeah, with the law library. There'll be some interview rooms off of the.
That's what Judge Fudge was telling me. If we had about 10 interview rooms where the law library is, everybody would be happy.
Yeah, we won't have 10, we don't have room for 10, but we'll have some interview rooms. But, working on redrawing some plans right now. Let's get through the elevator RFP and get them started, and then I'll have some new plans with Harper Perkins. We've got a zillion irons in the fire trying to finish this building, and,
I was gonna say, I don't know how you do anything more than LEC right now.
well, we got a meeting on the elevators this Wednesday, to move that project forward, so.
What is the brand name you're going with?
up and down.
Yeah, I don't know.
Otis?
Yeah.
Thyssen Crump.
Reliable?
Thyssen Crump, I believe. Recruiter, I think that's what it's gonna be. But,
Okay, do we have a motion on the floor or not?
Well, you made the motion, I
No.
seconded it.
Okay,
Is that not right?
okay. Okay. Does everyone understand what the motion does?
on item 3,
Yeah.
we probably need to go back and review the tape on that, 'cause I thought we took some action on 3.
No, what we did, you didn't, no. I thought we did, the way we did that, and I misread it. We actually did because I didn't read far enough into 2 that said it's to reallocate money, so we did that. Then it was a separate item to discuss the county court coordinator's position.
Well, and again, and Mark may have meant his motion differently. I just took it that Mark didn't want to use the district judges or that position within the district judge or court coordinators for Joyce, just because it's kind of a separate thing.
Yes, ma'am.
And Lee, your mics are muted.
I was off.
Yeah, turn it back on.
Somebody told me that I didn't need it.
I was joking.
For taking action,
Now, he's
there
gonna
were
say-
9 cameras on too?
Oh, they're on, they've been
They've been on,
Yeah.
okay.
Okay. Are you ready? Everyone clear on what the motion is?
To up Joyce to 2,000. And when you're gonna start her?
Next pay period.
Next pay period,
Because the work's already going on.
yeah.
So her salary will be increased
$1,000
for the,
annually.
for the rest, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, we thought monthly was too much.
For the, well, I was gonna say, so it will be prorated out for the rest of the year, each
Yes,
pay
sir.
period will, to add up to $2,000.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Unless it was the law library. And Sherry would get, what, 600,000 a month?
It sets a precedent.
It certainly opens the door for one.
It absolutely opens the door for one.
2, we got 2 knocked out.
All in favor?
You're gonna have to
I'm not,
bring yours
I'm not
back
disagreeing
up.
with that, I'm just saying we've,
Here's Barry, Judge, if you
We're
want.
opening the door to let everybody put extra in their budget for certain things and then not spend it and then give it away as salary.
Yep, I'm afraid so too.
Press release will hit in the morning.
It will?
It's a go.
Cool, good deal.
Heck, yeah.
I've got a district farm bureau meeting tonight. He said, go ahead and talk it up.
Good.
That's awesome.
what's
That is
that?
awesome.
So we're getting the
We're getting
United
the
States largest hemp plant in the,
world's largest.
is it world's largest?
Plant, from what they know right now.
Panda,
What's that?
Panda?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. He said the first release hits in the morning, so that's super.
Okay, so I missed all that.
Yeah. We got-
It was a secret.
It was a secret. You couldn't, but it's out, it'll be released in the morning, so that's good news. We can start stirring the water.
Make
Henry-
sure Bob knows that, Barry, that you've sure been working on that endeavor.
Oh, yeah, because he thinks us county commissioners need to be out there
Doing more.
doing economic development, and you can tell him that you've done it.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, there's 90% of the reason that's coming.
Well, sure.
Oh, absolutely.
Barry's got
No,
a
we've
solid
got- Yeah, it is.
understanding.
We're gonna get them going anyway. Serge and them are gonna be, Serge is kind of the outreach guy. He's gonna be up here next week. And also Bob, the big guy's gonna be here.
Do you need me to rename the road?
Yeah. If it's in my precinct. Or you talking about I-44?
No, our road is in my precinct.
Hemp Highway.
That road is in my
No,
precinct.
it's not.
Well, it was.
Well, we've been maintaining it.
Well, good.
Still in our precinct. We were just out there the other day working.
Well, I had to change the name to Nutra Avenue or whatever it was.
Anyway,
Well, we gotta get rid of that, because that's gone.
if we name it Hemp Boulevard, we'll increase the traffic quite a bit. But it's
Hey,
not big
let's
traffic.
just name it Smoking
There
Road.
you go.
Smoking road.
Smoker
Yeah.
Road.
I said Smoking Road.
So what did y'all decide, Rob?
We haven't, we're waiting for you.
Well, we,
Do I need to leave again?
Okay, the motion's on the floor to go ahead and raise Joyce's salary for an annual amount of an additional $2,000, and to begin it at the beginning of the next pay period, and pay the $2,000 plus salary expenses by reducing my travel line.
I think it's great. I wish it was a more permanent fix, but if that'll get us where we need to be, we can deal with it down the road. if we have to.
The thing that Commissioner Beecham has pointed out is, and Patty was asking it too, well, okay, wait a minute, what was this deal we were only doing it on salaries? And, you know,
You talking about from a zero budget standpoint, or?
yeah, it's zero budget.
I understand that, and I'm very, and I think that's a very serious consideration. I think doing that is vital, and we have done that, and, but I think you're right, Judge. I think if you can commit to that for the next year or two.
but, well, yeah, and that's what he said, but on that note, like, of course, this is an anomaly here, and we've kept that money, but he gets it underwritten because he's active and involved. And we capture the money a different way. So let's say Patty had, a $5,000 a month expense in printers, and she came up with a scenario to get out from under that expense. And she could do it with the software she found that district clerks use that no longer needs us to hire printers. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with Patty using that money to have somebody run software, if she had to hire somebody to do that, because in essence, would be some form of savings.
Well, just to, whether it helps or not, I turn back $1,000 of my salary every year anyway. So whether you want to take that $1,000 of that salary
Yeah.
and move it to there, then fine, do that.
Well,
And you just have to add to it.
I mean, I just.
Curtis,
Sir.
I'd like for you to turn back $1,000 of your salary
I
for
already
you.
did it this morning.
Just
I'm sorry we had all that
Well, and I
miscommunication.
get that too, so.
That was certainly my intent.
I see you hadn't got your new laptop.
I just thought he skipped because Mark was
Hey,
saying that
you know what?
we shouldn't
My daughter's
use
got a
the
brand new
money to
RV
pay
she's trying to
Joyce
sell.
because it
It's only
didn't
like
come out of the
$30,000.
judges, it came out of
It's
Andy
brand
Hills.
new.
And that's why I thought we skipped it, I just wasn't paying attention
It's got,
close enough.
fireplace in it.
And that's a valid point, but still,
It's like, big, it's a bumper
it's
pool.
the same thing. I mean, we're doing the same.
It's got like a
I understand
queen size
that
bed up front.
standpoint.
And a couple
But I
bunk
think
beds in the back,
even if
and the rest of it's
Jeff and I
kitchen
talked
and
about
living
this a
room.
little bit too, I think in the future, as
Yeah,
we
we're just looking at.
look at these kind of scenarios down the road, I still feel very strongly that we ought to get into the business of reclaiming.
Well, if you want to spend that much
25% of
money,
those that
this
go
was
back to
cheap.
the general fund,
Before
back to
we
the
do
taxpayer.
it, before we
If you're
do
trying
it.
to buy a small one for that kind of
I
money,
just-
just buy
I
the
just
big
do. I
one.
think it's the only fair thing to do.
And so it's a bumper pool.
believe we need to reward people, but I think if we retain some number, I don't know if that's the
Bumper
right
pool's
number,
different
but I think that
though.
should become a standard deal. And I understand we can't just come out of the blue and do
different than
that.
goose.
That's something we need to do more as a policy or more
Gooseneck,
as a
you
way to
gotta
do it, but I think it's something to consider in the future.
We make that the budget statement
Bumper
early
pools
on,
are
that
balanced.
if we're gonna realign,
Yeah.
that we wanna see some savings off of it.
It's,
The thing you've got to look at, but also the realistic thing is, you've got budgets here that we have to jack them up to here, so we have the money in the budget for that expense. Sheriff, if you look at their budget, it's not uncommon in years they return a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
It's not uncommon for the DA to return a couple $100,000.
Sure.
it's such a dynamic, it's such a dynamic scenario.
Well, how do you budget for 2 murder trials?
But it's just, yeah, that's what I'm saying, it's such a dynamic situation, you've gotta do that to take protection.
Well,
And
so you gotta qualify how you look at that, but, the history of my travel budget, it doesn't really hit you.
Well, one thing you find out in county government pretty quick is there's lots of variables and there's lots of different scenarios and a lot of different cases, and try as hard as we might.
And there's a lot of different attitudes.
That's right, and try as hard as we might to try to make all this fair and even, it's not, it never will be, and it's not what it is, but I think we all need to just keep in mind that, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, and I think, we've had some people that worked through this virus deal, never took a day off, never closed office for a day and moved right along, and then we've had some that didn't, and I'm not pointing fingers at anyone because probably both people were right. The scenario is how you operate it, but what's fair about that? There's nothing fair about that. There are people that had a 2-month vacation and others worked every day. I don't know, how do you compensate for that? I don't have the answer. But it's a reality, it's out there. So, there you go.
There you have it.
There you have it.
Have we voted yet?
No.
I would say it is what it is, but I'm not
I'll
gonna say
call for the question.
What's her name used it.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
Right, now can we turn our mics off?
Well, we got anything else? Okay, it is 3:25.
I thought you did that the other day.
No, I couldn't get anybody. Mark, help me. You turned me down, remember?
Got up in the ceiling, said there's no water up there.
I'm riding backwards.
Lights, on top of the lights is struck. And everybody bringing you. He's gonna try to get everybody.
Has Michelle, whoa, wait, hang on before y'all leave, we may not be adjourned. I was just looking if we've seen that. Just a minute.
I'll be right over.
guys, but I'm hard to believe.
Okay, she sent her,
We're not hanging somebody, are we? Maybe, okay.
Nancy, print the things Michelle sent us, would you? Yeah. Okay, has she shut down in there yet?
So, how many jobs?
She is not in there, Judge.
Okay. Well, take a look at it. We can't take any, discuss it.
Get up and get rolling. Maybe quite a bit more than that. I mean, you know, this is uncharted
Is it
territory.
bigger than the plant that they're building in Houston?
It's supposed to be. Well,
Oh, I wanna go get my truck.
Go get it.
Okay.
Just take that with you so you can look at it tonight.
Okay.
Bonnie, you say you lease coolers in my truck?
Oh, yeah.
Get your cooler over